This company is making more than $90 million by just correcting your grammar. Well, I'm talking about Grammarly. When everybody was driving people to their product through websites and land pages, Grammarly took its product to where people were. And this is how it all started. Founded by Max Litvin and Alex Shevchenko, Grammarly didn't start as a plugin business. In fact, it wasn't even named Grammarly. The founders built something called My Dropbox in 2002, which was used as an online service that checked essays and research papers for plagiarism. The market segment for this business was limited to students and teachers, and within a year, they expanded to 800 universities and around 2 million students. This led them to ask a serious question: why do people plagiarize in the first place? Are people finding it difficult to communicate what they meant in their own voice? Is that the root cause of plagiarism? So they thought of building a subscription-based product called SentenceWorks, which aimed at helping students with their grammar and spelling. This was just a landing page where you can copy-paste text into a box and enhance your grammar. It was more like a what you see is what you get editor. Turns out, their thesis was true. The company saw huge cash flow, and at this point, they developed a new venture called Grammarly. Initially, like all other companies, they heavily invested on landing pages and paid searches. Unlike MS Word's spell checkers, which only scanned for obvious spelling errors and grammar mistakes, Grammarly handled everything from contextual spelling to but there was one big problem on building the product on the early days. Creating an algorithm smart enough to understand English takes time and money, plus they don't have enough data to develop an algorithm in the first place. So the product wasn't perfect. But here's how the founders tackled it. Rather than trying to build a perfect and expensive algorithm from day one, they relied on user recommendation to improve their product. Their primary objective was to focus on the problem and solution rather than attracting investors. They sold their products to universities and improved their product every day. This simple stepping stone helped Grammarly to attain more users and make $10 million in revenue within 3 years. Now let me tell you something interesting. Majority of the Grammarly's users were native English speakers, which means even native English speakers weren't confident about the way they write. Another metric produced by them talks about 70% of the students who used Grammarly felt confident. This basically means Grammarly is not just a simple grammar correcting tool. It became something that people rely on to be confident. Taking the product away from them will affect their confidence and eventually make them sad. One of the different things that the founders did was that instead of focusing on a huge consumer market, they focused on a particular niche in the beginning and then went on to the consumer market. Grammarly was initially for students and universities, but as the word of mouth grew, it became used by more broader segments like journalists, government consultants, salespeople, and more. That's when they shifted to the consumer market. It also meant that Grammarly could get the data, it continued to improve their core product. Shifting their target market also played an important role on bringing product market fit for them. Another cool thing about the way they developed the product was that instead of turning their free users to paid users, Grammarly monitors their usage and uses that data to drive conversions. By getting users to first build a habit around the free product, they can eventually nudge users to the premium version. They did have a social media presence across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and etc. But initially, their focus was on Facebook and Twitter. In the early days, they created a fairly dry, specialized content for people interested in grammar and writing. But then, as they started iterating and tried out new things, they found out that the format of tips, jokes, and comics that made language fun drove the highest engagement. And by 2020, they had 7 million followers in Facebook alone. Apart from that, they invested on billboards, created personalized newsletters for their users, giving insights on their writing quality and personal record alerts and so on. After a point, the founders noticed that their core product, the web editor, where users had to copy paste text from their word processor to a browser, created a huge source friction. One innovative approach that the founders made was the MS Words plugin and a browser extension. Their thought process while building out this was, instead of driving people to their product, they wanted to take their product to where people were and save time for them. Guess what? Grammarly became one of the most successful plugin business. Making their business model freemium also helped them to catch a huge consumer segment, at the same time generate revenue through their consumer subscription model, which costs around $12 a month. This approach drove 3 million plus registered users and a huge revenue growth. Grammarly now became a $13 billion company. For more interesting content, subscribe to my YouTube and follow me on Twitter for more.